Europe falls as its disease spreads throughout each of the nations. Some are stronger than others, yet all of the dominoes will fall. Europe is collapsing, and the solution that they are providing are bail-ins. I will get to that in just a moment. Let's go into the issues that they are having right now. Italy's economic woes highlight dilemma for European Central Bank. This is out of the Nasdaq, talking about annual inflation in the Eurozone weakened to a 5-year low in September, and consumer prices actually fell in Italy, raising pressure on the ECB to do more to stimulate the region's struggling economy. That's right. You need to print money to get this economy going. You can't just stand idly by. You need to create austerity measures, and what that means is basically making individuals more poor, and at the same time you need to print up money, and you need to use that to buy up garbage debt. That's exactly what they're doing. But out of this article in Bloomberg, Europe's yields turned negative on ECB rate cuts and asset purchases. So what they said was European bonds rallied, leaving a 2-year note yield below zero. Okay, that is in 8 countries. The rate is below zero. You actually get a negative return, and people are buying it. But the fact remains is that chances are the only ones buying it, or the majority of that, would be the central banks. And here, the ECB unexpectedly cut interest rates, said it would buy asset-backed securities to boost the economy. What I have to say is that this is going to happen in the United States and other countries as well, as they have raised interest rates, or perhaps intend on raising interest rates. They're going to have to bring them down once again. It is simply a matter of fact. And of course, they think that buying up this toxic debt, buying up these asset-backed securities, collateralized debt obligations, somehow this is going to provide a means of boosting the economy, when it's just so silly. I can't explain it. I can't figure it out. It is just a complete fraud. That's the only way to look at it. Now look at this here. Marketonomics talking about the Eurozone manufacturing edges closer to stagnation. That's right, heading towards the triple dip in many of the regions there, talking about how this manufacturing, which is the real economy, is going nowhere. And that's a matter of fact. It's the same in a lot of the Western nations. You're looking at this, and it simply can't be avoided. When you shipped all those jobs overseas and you used the bailout money to do that, taxpayer money to do that, it simply is not going to work for too long, because the individual is really hurting bad. I'll get into that in a moment as well. And this right here, Mario Draghi pushes for the ECB to accept Greek and Cypriot junk loans. That's right. They want to buy up the worst of the worst debt possible, and they're going to use this to somehow boost the economy. This is a very silly notion. It will not work. It has never worked, and this is simply a matter of them getting more and more in debt, because they're going to run themselves into trouble, and they're going to beg for a solution, and that solution has already been decided. Now, in my book, I talked about Europe's weakening, saying there have been tens of thousands of cuts to European bank employees as a result of the fear of collapse. That's right. Tens of thousands, and I believe there was even a lot more after that if you consider the worldwide numbers that happened. This is going to happen again. And this doesn't even make you think about how many people never got their jobs back. So this is quite something to look at. Unemployment rate in Europe is absolutely drastic right now, and of course it's something that's really back page news, and it will not get the attention that it deserves. Fearing political crisis, Greece plots escape from the bailout. That's right, they're going to apparently attempt to escape from this bailout, but you cannot escape the clutches of the IMF and the Troika. It is simply not going to happen. They are under the EU's control. They will not escape the bailout, and if they do, on paper, they will always have to come back. That's just the way it works. They're put into the economic slavery, and it is working quite well for the technocrats. That's out of Reuters. And last but not least, Germany okays plan to make creditors prop up the banks. This is out of Market Watch. And I just need to get through to you the seriousness of this. Let me read this paragraph. Germany's cabinet Wednesday approved plans to force creditors into propping up the struggling banks beginning in 2015, 1 year earlier than required under European-wide plans that set rules for failing financial institutions. So let me clear this up here. The creditors in the case of Cyprus were people that were depositors, essentially. The depositors were creditors, and they were part of the bail-in. So that is something that people don't realize. They say creditors, they think they mean, the shareholders, and they will be affected as well. But the individual, that grandmother who puts her savings into the bank account, is going to have her money torn out by the technocratic elite. And also what's interesting about this is that they said that's the European-wide plans. So this is going to be all across Europe getting ready for the bail-ins. I've been warning about the bail-ins ever since the Cyprus issue happened, ever since the budget report for 2013 in Canada. They talked about a bail-in regime. That's a quote. And this is going to continue to spread all throughout the world. Germany, just one of those nations. They're doing it earlier than everyone else. They're setting up the framework. They may not use it for 5, 10, 20, 50 years, but it's going to happen. They set up the laws in advance so that they can pull this off. It worked in Cyprus perfectly. They did it, and nobody really complained. You had a bit of riots, and look, everything's now fine. They're not talking about it in the news, and nobody got hurt, according to them. Of course, those individuals who had their savings stolen, that's a different story, of course, but they don't matter, according to the news media. So, I warn you, I urge you, to watch where your savings are. If they're in these paper assets and paper investments, if they are in the savings accounts, your money may be confiscated, and that is something you need to look at. Buy real assets instead. Hold on to things that have real value, because it will give you a better chance of keeping your wealth and then being able to pass that down from generation to generation. I want to thank each and every one of you for all of the comments, all of the emails. I'm getting lots of consultations recently. Thank you to all of those people on there. I do one-on-one consultations with people and really help them to get their stuff in order. If you want to know more about that, please email me. And also, don't forget to become an insider. The Insiders is where I give out all my best intel for free, and that is available at themoneygps.com. You scroll down to the bottom and you fill in your email address, and you get occasional emails from me with good, short, concise info.